The freighter ship Emerald Dove cruised through the vast empty space between planets. A tiny speck adrift in the infinity of the cosmos. Inside its cramped interior, a handful of passengers made the long journey between systems in restless anticipation of reaching their destination, the fabled colony world of Nova Thera. I gazed out one of the small viewport windows, watching stars glide slowly by. Our pilot, Captain Sura, assured us we would arrive within a standard week if all continued smoothly. The thought of finally stepping foot on solid ground after so many lonely 10 days in flight lifted my spirits. Nova Thera promised Utopia, a pristine garden world where humanity could start anew, unburdened by the sins of our past. Beside me, my friend Darrow fidgeted restlessly in his seat. "I cannot wait to feel dirt between my toes," he murmured wistfully, "to breathe fresh air untainted by factory fumes. They say Nova Thera is a paradise. Emer, verdant forests, crystal lakes, rolling meadows as far as the eye can see. A place where we can live simply and freely as nature intended." I smiled, sharing his hopeful vision. Our home system of Pollux had long ago sacrificed its beauty for the demands of industry and rapid urbanization. Green spaces were a distant memory, the skies perpetually shrouded in toxic smog. Stories of Nova Thera's pristine wilderness had drawn settlers from across the sector, all seeking the promise of a simpler life in touch with the land. If only the journey did not seem to drag on so interminably. Our days fell into a dull routine of meals, chores, and idle games to pass the time. Talk inevitably turned to speculations about our new home and the start of a new life there. One diversion was listening to the tales of our fellow travelers, each with their own reasons for leaving behind the crowded cores to stake their claim on the frontier. There was grim yet gentle Jenna, fleeing a painful past as a sanitation worker on Pollux Prime. Quiet Tolan escaped oppression as a marginalized ethnicity on his homeworld. Even gruff Captain Sura longed to retire from Spaceship Command and try her hand at farming. All dreamed the same dream, that Nova Thera would deliver the idyllic refuge and sense of belonging they so desperately sought. On the 7th evening, Captain Sura's voice crackled over the comm. "We'll be entering Nova Thera's system within the hour. Everyone to the common room for approach briefing." Excitement rippled through us as we gathered expectantly by the viewports. First came glimpses of the gas giant Loki and its colorful bands, followed by the smaller inner planets. Then, looming into sharper focus, Nova Thera swelled before us, a glorious orb of azure seas and emerald continents under brilliant white sunlight. I heard audible gasps at the sheer natural splendor on display, realizing all prior descriptions had failed to do it justice. This was no terraformed world or manufacturing hub. Nova Thera boasted primitive but pristine wilderness in every direction, entirely untouched by industry. Through cloud breaks, we spotted forested mountain ranges and sweeping grasslands, teeming with herds of strange quadrupeds. Wide rivers snaked across the landscape, feeding misty waterfalls and cerulean lakes. It was nothing short of paradise incarnate. Captain Sura broke the awed silence. "Take it all in now, folks. This is what you crossed the void for. By all accounts, Nova Thera is untouched and free for the taking. You'll be among the first settlers, so chances are wide open. Stake your claims before others fill the good spots." Her words reignited old hopes and dreams in our hearts. This truly was the promised land, a blank canvas to shape our future however we wished. Our eager discussions soon turned to plans: where we would build our homesteads, what crops to sow, which skills we'd employ. Disembarking the next day, we'd start fresh with nothing but the open sky above and the gifts of nature around us. What more could we want from life? As our ship touched down in the sparse interim settlement of New Hope, I strode down the gangplank bursting with joy and purpose. The air smelled richer here, untainted by pollutants. Bright sunshine warmed my skin in a way dim artificial lights never could. Darrow joined me with a whoop, savoring long-denied contact with natural earth between his toes. Initial greetings revealed other early settlers had fared well so far amid plentiful resources, adding to our enthusiasm. We immediately set off hiking into the surrounding forest, intoxicated by the tranquil beauty at every turn. Darrow spotted game trails and edible berries along the way, while I contemplated laying foundations for our future home. Returning at dusk, our hearts were light with newfound hope. Each day that followed brought its own discoveries: suitable farmland, useful tools lying discarded, and wilderness yet awaiting cultivation and care. Within a season, Darrow and I had established a modest wooden homestead in a forest glade. Our crops thrived with minimal effort in the fertile soil. Nights were spent entertaining fellow settlers, swapping stories around fires, bonded by shared dreams of building community. Days found us exploring further reaches, mapping resources and carving trails for future roads. Nova Thera delivered beyond all expectations, her gifts flourishing with wild abundance wherever we tread. It was then strange reports started coming in from far-flung outposts. Other settlers never returned from journeys as scheduled, vanishing without a trace into the dense woods. Supplies went mysteriously missing from locked storage sheds. Strange markings appeared branded onto tree trunks, no symbol any had seen before. Rumors of blurred movements, glimpsed at twilight, always just out of sight, set nerves on edge. When peaceful foraging parties started finding mutilated game carcasses in the underbrush, fear took root. A township on the northern coast sent an urgent distress signal before going dark, the fate of its inhabitants unknown. Strange sounds not of any local creature drifted through the nights, chilling the soul with an essence of malign intent. Dark whispers spoke of unseen stalkers, picking off colonists one by one, toying with their prey for sport before snuffing out young lives. The more we learned of these lethal mysteries, the less natural they seemed. Tracks left behind showed a physiology like nothing native to Nova Thera or any other known world. Scat samples analyzed as completely foreign to this planet's ecology. Tool caches discovered in improbable places betrayed an intelligence far exceeding simpler beasts. Night vision scans started picking up fleeting thermal anomalies fading into tree lines. We were not alone on this paradise, and the others inhabiting it meant us clear harm. A town meeting was called as terror gripped the fledgling community. Under the light of twin moons, frightened settlers openly spoke their growing suspicions that Nova Thera's true inhabitants had deliberately lurked in the shadows, allowing hopeful colonists to establish a toehold before unleashing a coordinated campaign of terror. We realized with nauseating comprehension that this verdant Eden was not the pristine sanctuary promised, but some other species' territory millennia in the fashioning. And they had cunningly lured unwitting intruders into a trap with false perceptions of abandonment, only to pick off interlopers one by one in a brutal war of attrition. None could say how long the alien stalkers had covertly watched and learned of us, but it was chillingly clear they now commanded an intimate knowledge of our structures, movements, and weaknesses to fully exploit. Their guerrilla tactics betrayed a depth of cunning and malice far surpassing any mere wild beasts. We were clearly facing an intelligent, hostile, and technologically advanced alien species with complete mastery of this world, one that saw fit to eliminate invasive humans by any means necessary to reclaim what was theirs. In that grim hour, the bitter truth dawned on us all. Nova Thera's Utopia was but an illusion, a gilded cage disguising a new form of primitive horror. We had walked unsuspectingly into an alien death trap on an alien world, our innocence shattered beyond repair. From this point, survival would require abandoning all naive hopes for peaceful coexistence and facing our cunning foes with wisdom, courage, and ruthless efficiency. The nightmare had only just begun. In the fearful days that followed, our small band of survivors huddled together for strength, sharing what resources we had left amid the ruins of our fledgling colony. Thanks to Darrow's quick thinking, our homestead still stood intact, one of the few structures left after the aliens' coordinated assault. Its sturdy wood walls provided a measure of shelter from the constant howling winds sweeping the plains. Inside by the fire, I cleaned and dressed game, while Darrow maintained a silent vigil at the window, scanning the tree line for any threat. Though frightful to face alone, tales emerged of our comrades' final horrors, piecing together the aliens' gruesome methodology. Gentle Jenna had been taken in the night, her mutilated remains left on our doorstep as a warning the next dawn. Steadfast Tolan vanished without a trace while scouting northward. Our enemy favored stealth and psychological warfare, knowing that fear and isolation were humanity's greatest vulnerabilities on this foreign shore. After weeks surviving on dwindling provisions and little sleep, suspicion and doubt festered even among ourselves. Who could be trusted in this nightmarescape? Was anyone truly safe when the threat could strike at any moment unseen? Grimly, I recalled Captain Sura's final departure, her aged face etched with new lines of weariness. "Take care of these souls," she had bade farewell, readying the Emerald Dove for an urgent supply run off-world. Whether she would return was uncertain. Few ships dared venture to this cursed frontier of late. For now, a scant dozen settlers remained barricaded inside our Crofter homestead, relying on strength of spirit alone to endure the endless nights. As we gathered silently around the hearth after another tense sunset, my thoughts drifted to better seasons. Recalling first innocent days exploring Nova Thera's natural gifts, I ached for simpler delights denied us. Picking berries in sunlit glades, swimming cool brooks while spotting leaping trout, bedding down under a vast sky ablaze with alien constellations. Before inevitable tragedy, Darrow and I had lived as one with this vibrant garden world, entwined with its rhythms by day and warmed by crackling flames at nightfall. Now the same primal dance of life outside these walls seemed transformed, as subtly sinister as the landscape itself. Every rustling bush or footfall in the brush invoked nameless dread, for who knew when the stalkers might close in again. There had been no obvious reason to target certain victims, only that chilling patterns emerged implicating an alien intellect at work. Some nights, haunting melodies carried on the wind seemed almost a taunt, testing our fraying nerves with unfathomable harmonies. Into the oppressive silence, old Tolan's daughter Mara spoke, her soft voice carrying a ragged edge of desperation. "We cannot stay trapped like vermin indefinitely. There must be a way to fight back, to track the aliens and strike at their heart, to regain some semblance of control on this forsaken rock." Her words stirred restless murmurs of consent. Beside me, Darrow's hand found mine in the gloom, squeezing gently. "Mara is right," he urged. "Hiding accomplishes nothing but prolonging our torment. We are still human, resourceful, courageous, masters of both land and stars. If death comes, let it be on our feet, not cowering like frightened prey." I met his fierce gaze, drawing new resolve. "Then we go on the offensive at first light. No more living as prisoners of fear. The enemy revealed itself as hunter. Well, now it shall face hunters of its own. We have intelligence and technology where they rely on stealth and trickery alone. With cunning and cooperation, I believe we can turn the tables." Renewed determination filled the shelter that night, energizing exhausted bodies and minds alike. As dawn broke cold and clear, our small band emerged into the light, prepared for grim work. Jenna's rifle passed to Mara, whose steady hands would bear the fallen woman's memory into each shot. Together we ranged out, following trails only our enemy could leave, scanning for any sign to lead us to their territory. That first day yielded nothing but eerie silence in the wood. Yet our renewed vigilance seemed shake loose an unseen observer, judging our movements from afar. The second dawn brought spectral noises echoing across the plains at first light, as if calling our presence. Intrigued, we diverted course, tracking those uncanny sounds westward over rocky ridges. By afternoon, terrain gave way to strange pale mesas jutting from the grasslands. Weathered stone formations clustered in concentric rings, evoking some long-abandoned ceremonial site. Yet as we crept closer, unnatural geometry hinted at advanced architecture veiled in earthen disguise. Within a sheltered dell, movement caught my eye, a fleeting shadow flitting between eroded pillars, just beyond reliable vision. We had found what might be the aliens' hidden stronghold at last. From that vantage, our enemy observed inscrutably as ever, testing our resolve. Excitement warred with primal unease as mysteries beckoned, begging to be solved, yet knowing realities unveiled might shatter fragile minds. Dark urgings warned of treading ground where humanity was clearly not meant to tread. Darrow's hand clasped mine tighter, his face grim but set with iron purpose. This was the moment of truth. To turn back seemed the path of safety and sanity. Yet how else could the nightmares end but by facing their architects on their own accursed ground? With Mara and the others standing resolute beside us, Darrow and I steeled our wills and descended cautiously into that desolate crescent, ready to glimpse whatever truth or oblivion might await within Novathera's oldest and darkest of secrets. The dell was eerily silent as we crept along weathered stone paths, weapons at the ready. Strange hieroglyphs adorned crumbling walls, evoking ages past. Our unstable flashlights cast twisting shadows as we picked our way through the maze-like ruins. Without warning, an uncanny shriek rent the stillness. We spun just as a dark shape descended upon Mara. She went down yelling, her rifle skittering away. I lunged after it as two more aliens materialized to set upon Darrow and Toland's son, Ethon. Like nothing told in fables, the aliens stood as tall as men but rail-thin, with pallid exoskeletons and 6 spindly limbs ending in hooked talons. Expressionless oval faces bore twin clusters of lidless eyes glittering with predatory malice. Grabbing Mara's rifle, I whirled and fired on instinct. The report was deafening in the narrow space. My shot caught one stalker square in its lantern jaws, blasting apart its brow ridge in an eruption of ichor. It collapsed slowly, twitchily, as if death were unfamiliar to its kind. Heart pounding, I swung the rifle around, scanning desperately for another target. A flash of movement. Darrow grappled with one, its sharp limbs slashing as he wrestled to keep its snapping jaws from his throat. I fired again, catching it in a lower limb. It reeled aside with an accusatory shriek, granting Darrow an opening. He tore free his hatchet and chopped down savagely, severing its spinal cord at the thorax. Another shot from my rifle, this one misfired, the spent cartridge refusing to eject. Cursing, I struggled to clear the jammed action one-handed as the final stalker closed on Athen. He flailed wildly with his mining pick, keeping its ripping talons at bay for precious seconds. Gritting my teeth, I bellowed and smashed the rifle stock against the stone floor until the stuck round dislodged. Raising it anew just as the creature bowled Ethon over. A brilliant flash, a boom like the world breaking. The shockwave flung me back against the wall, dust and grit raining down. Deafened, stunned, I blinked away debris to see a smoldering crater where the alien and Athen had been. Mara stood shakily nearby, Jenna's old pistol smoking in her hands. She must have grabbed a flare round from my pack. Her desperate shot had ceased the immediate threat, yet also alerted the entire ruins to our invasive presence. Already agitated shrieks and chitters echoed all around as more of the aliens swarmed to eliminate the intruders. Darrow hauled me up as I coughed, Nod ramming home my lesson. These beings were nothing if not lethal in defense of their territory. We had stirred a hornet's nest and would be lucky to escape with our lives. "Run!" I croaked, clinging to Mara's arm as we pelted headlong back the way we had come. Darrow and Toland's surviving son, Liam, bringing up the rear. Behind, an unearthly cacophony closed in, sharp limbs scrabbling over stone. An iron grip seized my ankle. I kicked and twisted free just in time, hurtling on as taloned hands swiped for purchase. Darting around a bend, we spotted the cleft in the dell's rim ahead, desperate salvation, and skidding to a halt as more shrieks emerged before us, cutting off escape. We were trapped between converging packs of aliens, lithely scaling the walls, squeezing into the narrow space from all sides with cold purpose. A dozen glimmering eyes focused unswervingly on the invaders amid their sacred ground. Darrow passed his hatchet to Mara. "Make them count, love," he murmured, embracing her tightly one last time before turning to face charging shadows alongside myself, ready to sell our lives dearly in this alien slaughter maze. Then a dim howl outside, followed by the low whine of turbines. Fire blossomed above as missiles streaked into the crescent's ragged crown, debris raining anew. Through the swirling dust strode Captain Sura, emerging from her shuttle's open hatchway amid the ruins like an avenging deity, flamethrower spitting hellish wrath. "Hurry!" she roared, laying down suppressing fire that sent wild shrieks echoing as the aliens broke and fled from the conjured inferno. We dashed for the shuttle in a shower of flaming shrapnel, diving through the aft hatch as Sura backed slowly on board, continuing to spray jets of liquid fire that washed entire sections of wall. With a final blaze, she slammed the panel shut and we sped skyward, circling once to watch the crescent below churn with spreading conflagration and exposed tunnels collapsing in on themselves. Our foe's eerie citadel was reduced to smoking rubble, their ranks badly depleted, and for now humanity had wrested back the advantage on this contested world. But whether we had seen the last of Nova Thera's true lords remained to be seen. The shuttle ride back to our homestead was a solemn one. Weary survivors slumped in our seats, shaken to our cores by horrors glimpsed within that alien citadel. Captain Sura tended our wounds in grave silence, her care fulfilling the promise to shepherd our broken flock. Only Mara sat straight and still as stone, Jenna's pistol clutched in a death grip on her lap, eyes staring unfocused at nothing. Since the fray, she had uttered not a word. I feared what dreadful sights might haunt her shattered mind. Touching down at our croft as dawn broke cold and pale, we disembarked on the soil stained brown with old blood. All around lay the ruins of our erstwhile community, charred frameworks of homes and workshops standing amid tall grass gone to seed. The heavy stench of decay hung thick in the still air. Our small band halted somberly at the edge of that charnel plain, realizing with leaden hearts that even should we vanquish the alien menace, nothing could restore what was lost to find sanctuary here again. This land had been irrevocably stained by tragedy and violence, its beauty shattered beyond repair. Darrow swept me into a tight embrace, burying his face in my neck as silent tears fell. I clutched him close, shaking with grief and pity for all souls who met their ends on this cursed shore, cut down before their dreams could truly begin to blossom. How many more must fall to pay the bloody price of our short-lived folly in coveting another's domain as our own? Captain Sura moved to stand beside us, following our sorrowful gaze across the ruins. "There is nothing more for you here," she said gently. "This place died the day the stalkers showed their true faces. It's time to leave the ghosts behind and start anew. Somewhere the soil hasn't been watered with innocent blood." She was right, of course. Lingering served no purpose but to sustain our suffering. Yet my heart twisted at abandoning the homeland we had nurtured from wilderness, however brief its golden season lasted before winter's long night descended. Here we buried our fallen comrades who fought and died, hoping against hope this haven might endure. In the end, Nova Thera had proven as uncaring and treacherous as any sea in a universe intent only on devouring all life that dared tread its dark depths. Perhaps it was folly to dream any corner of creation could be permanently tamed and set apart for any one sapient strain alone. All things end, as all beginnings inevitably must. That evening, we held a farewell pyre beneath a swollen orange sun, laying to rest what humble possessions could be salvaged from the ashes. Forming a silent ring around the crackling flames, we bid farewell in heart to ghosts of dreams and friends lost on this shore we could no longer call home. As night fell, cloaking the ruins in swirling mists, our diminished group boarded the shuttle once more. Through viewports, we watched Nova Thera's twin moons rise huge and baleful over fields of long grass swaying in the spectral breeze, soon to reclaim all signs of humanity's desperate struggle for roots here. Someday, native legends might tell of fairy colonists who briefly walked these glades only to disappear as suddenly as they had come. Captain Sura piloted us into the black, her weathered features lit sternly by star charts and displays. "Where will you go from here?" she asked, gazing back at her haggard passengers with sympathy in her stern eyes. Darrow took my hand in his, finding solace in its warmth. We exchanged a look, seeing in each other's eyes like mirrors that though this chapter closed in bleak ruin, together our spirits remained unbroken. Where the trail led next mattered little, so long as we walked hand in hand, willing to rise and begin anew after every fall. I turned to Sura with a faint echo of my old smile. "Take us to the stars once more, Captain. Anywhere the soil is rich and sky is wide, our hands are willing to shape whatever new dreams the wind may blow our way. Whatever perils awaited beyond this ship's steel walls, in each other we found anchor enough against life's gales. Hand in hand we would ride out the dark and see the dawn, with faith that somewhere in infinity's vastness lay shores, yet waiting where our weary wings might find rest at last." Our weary band drifted through the void aboard the Emerald Dove, seeking solace in the familiar rhythm of stars gliding past viewports. Captain Sura aimed our prow toward the bustling hub of New Seattle, promising opportunities for settlers determined to rebuild their lives. Yet for all her assurances, an undercurrent of grim doubt lingered among us survivors. How long before tragic fate repeated itself, as it seemed destined to wherever humanity dared reach? What shore could stand unconquered before ambitions ebb and flow, before territorial instincts resurfaced in kinder guise among even ourselves? None spoke these brooding thoughts aloud, content for now to trudge through each new day and let the future birth whatever seeds it may. Darrow and myself found solace embracing like driftwood upon a shoreless sea, taking refuge in each moment, granted without regret for one's gone or fear of what lay ahead. Mara alone remained withdrawn, keeping silent vigil at windows gazing perpetually into the abyss. Though physically healed, some private anguish kept her mind wandering the cold expanses between stars. I feared a wound cut too deep for any balm to soothe, left to fester alone with her private ghosts. One night, drawn by intuition, I crept into the observation dome to find Mara had not stirred for hours. Gently, I touched her shoulder, startling violet eyes alive with bottomless sorrow meeting my own. "Tell me your grief, little sister, and lighten the burden a while," I bid her softly. "No heart should bear such weight alone." She studied me for a long moment, as if judging my words' merit. At last, in a small voice barely above a whisper, "Out there in the ruins, I sense them, Emmer. Their minds, so alien yet so achingly like our own. Curiosity, fear, protectiveness of their land. When the flames took their citadel, I felt each life snuffed out like candle flames, and their anguish at failing their sacred charge. We are not so different, they and I." I drew in a slow breath, piecing together her quiet revelation. "You empathized with our enemies and understand why they struck back as any would to invaders. Yet you mustn't blame yourself, Mara. We came in innocence and they showed no mercy once roused. Both sides were driven by nature's oldest instincts of survival." Her laugh was mirthless as a sob. "Survival? Is that all this cruel dance amounts to in the end, between every strain of being under heaven? An endless struggle to claim and hold dominion over scraps of soil watered with the blood of others? What purpose does it serve if in defense of any piece of ground we lose our own humanity?" I had no easy answers for her conundrum, no balm to soothe an aching sparked by glimpsing shadows of ourselves and former foes. For long moments we sat in thoughtful quiet, gazing at an uncaring galaxy alight with a multitude of struggles just like our own, played out across eons beneath unfamiliar stars. At last Mara spoke again, her voice steady with hard-won conviction. "When we reach New Seattle, I've decided not to linger. Captain Sura has offered me a place as shuttle pilot to see more of creation's wonders before choosing anew where to plant my roots. Perhaps out there I'll find shores untouched by old battles and beings willing to meet in peace instead of fear and conflict." I smiled, feeling pride for her strength and wisdom beyond her years. "Then I wish you fair skies and following winds on your journey, dear sister. May you find all you're searching for and a place to call home in harmony." We embraced, a bond of understanding sealed between us. When at last the Dove glided into New Seattle's bustling hub, our hardened band disembarked with mingled relief and trepidation. After Captain Sura's assurances, Darrow and I ventured into the bustling market district, amazed by the kaleidoscopic array of cultures and technologies on open display. Among the throng, a flashing hollow banner caught my eye, emblazoned with ideals of openness, diversity, and mutual understanding. Beneath shone the logo of an organization called United Species, an alliance devoted to fostering peaceful cooperation across the stars. On impulse, I grasped Darrow's hand, turning to him with a blossoming smile. "We've weathered enough conflict for one lifetime, my love. What say we see if this alliance could use a pair of willing hearts and hands to help build the future we dreamed of seeing?" He returned my smile, eyes lit with new hope. "Then let our feet follow where compassion leads henceforth. Together the storms of fate we've braved. Together we'll work so none need face such trials alone." And so our journey continued amid endless vistas. Though shadows lurk in every soul and corner of this sprawling cosmos, Through unity's gentle light, may more find courage facing the darkness within and meeting other beings not with fear or greed, but open hands. In the end, is this not purpose enough for any, to foster understanding where once was only strife, and give peace a chance to flower where blood once watered the soil? These were the thoughts buoying our spirits as Darrow and I embarked upon lives devoted to that high calling. And if ever in quiet moments memory stirred of shining coasts and moons rising over emerald hills, we took solace seeing reflection of those dreams born anew, wherever kindred spirits met as friends instead of strangers, under whatever skies their fates carried them across the stars.